So I wanted to record some thoughts on the upcoming Vision Pro, and I know pre-orders just went live on Friday, and looks like they sold out their first batch. And that a lot of people are waiting for what the future is, but the future is actually right now. We have the Quest 3, we have the XReal Airs, and different types of spatial computing as it stands right now. And I know people are pre-ordering, the future, and they're hoping and maybe betting that this thing will take off. So I just want to kind of give some quick thoughts and possibly, ponder a little bit about what the future will hold. I have been here since the early days of VR. I have the original Rift, I have the original Vive, and before that I was testing wireless VR using the Google and there was an app, and I forget the name of it, but there was an app that allowed you to wirelessly link your old iPhone to your PC, and it was so rudimentary, and everything was probably like 5 frames a second, but at least it got you to see what the glimpse is of the future. And so anyways, I was early on those on all those devices. I had a room set up with cameras for the early days of the Vive, and I got the third camera for the Rift so that I could have full spatial, kind of gaming. And so needless to say, I am a sucker for immersion, and I love it all. I've got projectors in the house. I use ultra-wide monitors, but I do truly think that all of those big devices and all of my old VR devices, projectors and things like that, will probably get a little dusty. So I did recently get the Quest 3, and I bought the XReal Airs when it was still XReal. So I have the old XReal box, or case for it anyways, and I use them all pretty regularly. I watch movies on them, I play games, I work on them, and I've talked to all of my friends about these things, and it's been an awesome kind of like tinkering with all of these toys, and seeing where we can all do. But I think the genius of this all is to have smaller devices to do bigger things. And so I will kind of like take that into the future as being a kind of a maximalist with minimalist intentions. But anyways, I wanted to kind of rift, and I have some thoughts on what we have here. So obviously right now nothing is perfect. We've got years for whatever this idea of what perfect VR will be, and I don't think it's going to take over, but I do think it will wind up being a large portion of the market that will kind of consolidate what people do on their laptops and phones. I think we have threats to the movie theater industry and whatever that kind of space looks like, for sure. Anyways, so I'll start from kind of the things that I love about what the state of it is, at least VR is right now. So I guess obviously the first one is immersion. Immersion is a huge deal. It allows you to focus. It allows you to really absorb yourself in either the work or the play that you're doing. And when we have massive amounts of screens everywhere, it's hard to kind of, get into something fully. That's the great kind of genius of the movie theaters. And I still love movie theaters, don't get me wrong, but the genius of being in a movie theater is that you have everything is dimmed down. You're sitting with friends, so you're in a community. Everybody shuts up for the most part, and everybody focuses on whatever that movie is for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you get out and you talk about it with your friends, and but it is a single focused experience. And popping your phone out during the middle of a movie, it sucks. It takes you way out of it, even if the movie isn't that great, which I totally understand. If people do that in the middle of a boring movie, it happens. But the idea is that everybody's there kind of for a singular purpose. And I think VR shares that. And I think for work, it's amazing, especially with the kind of encouraging idea that we used to have with massive amounts of tabs open in Windows and things like that. iPads and phones kind of made you focus on a singular experience, and now VR has you focus on a singular experience as well for the most part. And we'll probably start to see more, windows opening up, but I think a lot of it will be more for the singular work that you're doing, or the focused work, or the focused play, or focused socializing, or whatever it is. Community is the next thing that I love about it, and community. The community that I have right now is that I have friends that we all live in different states and in the U.S., and so we get to hang out and play things like walkabout mini golf together. We get to play Onward together, and this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for lower cost entries into VR, which I think that's a great thing that Meta did, is they allowed more people to kind of start experimenting with these things, because it's a big leap to strap something onto your face, look goofy, not knowing if you're kicking the dog or hitting a family member or something like that. There's a lot of early days that we're in right now that need to be figured out. But what we do have is kind of what I would equate to kind of jumping on the phone with your friends, or jumping onto a multiplayer game with your friends, except you get to kind of stand up and you get to move around, and you may not need the biggest amount of space, but you get to be kind of engaged, and you get to do fun things with your friends and still hang out and still talk and still catch up, and it's a great experience. It's not perfect for the most part. There's a lot of bugs still that need to be worked out, but it's enough to show that there is a great future in this for a community. So I've kind of talked about the focus. It allows you to focus on your work, and so I think the other thing there are two things that I love about it is the portability. So you may not be a glass hole and wear your new massively expensive futuristic device out in public. It's not there, but I think the smaller computing devices like your XReal Airs, which I'm a huge fan of, they allow you to kind of do this in public, and I have done that in public, and you'll get kind of a glance, but for the most part, people think you're wearing sunglasses. It doesn't really matter. So if you can engage in that kind of thing, and take them on airplanes or do things that allow you to kind of be in a space and still get to consume content, work on things, whatever it is, that's a cool integration for portability, and to be able to bring all of your monitors with you and not have to set up projection systems and things like that. Or there's a lot of planning and engineering that go into setting up a dedicated space for consuming content or for work. We all do it. We're all engaged in looking at getting multiple monitors set up for our workspaces so that we can have more real estate when we're needing to put applications in Windows and research and and all that stuff next to each other. And so you need to buy more monitors if you want to do that kind of thing, or you need to get really good with keyboard shortcuts and move things around and app switch and things. And with watching movies, in a home theater setup, you've got to set up a lot of different things to get an accurate kind of screening. And that comes from the audio side of being able to kind of deaden your room so that you don't get all of these reflections and echoes. You need to have a dark room, especially for projectors, because light from the outside world and light going from a projector to a screen, they battle each other constantly. And also big TVs, if you're into big OLEDs or LEDs or whatever the new display technologies are, you still have to mount that thing on a dedicated wall space. So that takes away some possible space to put up, photos of family or other things that you got up. And so the portability of that is amazing to be able to do that. And I think Vision Pro is going to tackle that, beautifully, because you have this near pixel sharp photoreal representation of that. But honestly, the Quest 3 is doing a great job, and I think it's for the price and things like that. We'll get into that, but I think for the price, it's really the entry level it should be the new entry level way of where people can integrate all those things besides just play, but actually work in it. So the last thing is that integration. If I have consoles and PCs and Blu-ray players or whatever, we want to integrate those into those screen spaces and possible virtual spaces that we want to be able to view our stuff in. And so the integration is something. It is a love and hate relationship, because you do need to kind of plan to have these if you want to use like a wireless signal to it, like for instance, if I want to cast my screen onto my Quest, I'll need to use an app like Virtual Desktop or Immersed or something like that. And this is where bandwidth comes in, and you'll need Wi-Fi 6 Wi-Fi 6E, I think, is really where you need to be at the minimum. And obviously, this is kind of a starting point with a lot of these things, and Wi-Fi 7 is coming out, so it will only get better. But that's where we're at right now with it. And there are definitely more wants that I kind of put down, and I think the wants are I would definitely want more integration. And if I have some new device that's something that somebody put out, I want to be able to incorporate my my phone or my tablet or my new gaming device, my Steam Deck, my Switch, all these things. And I think we're coming. There's the easy way to kind of jump into this is to use these USB camera apps that allow a video input signal using USB-C, which we're still kind of early days on. I think, and I feel, and I hope we have a better integration solution, and I'll talk about that in a second, which I've got some ideas that I would love to see, but I would love to see better, cleaner integration, I guess, into this ecosystem. Obviously, fidelity. I want us all to be at 4K at the very least. 4K HDR to give us the full spectrum of color, especially because we have no choice to look away. If we're going to be staring at this thing, we want it to have as much fidelity as we possibly can. And for work, I think especially people that are creating content, we want to be able to have a choice in how we see color space. So, and that'll approach a lot of things with accessibility as well. There are certain people that are more color sensitive than others. I think color blindness and things like that. So there should be better integration for that type of stuff. And also, things like if I were to wanting to see things in CMYK space, versus an RGB space versus, maybe something that I want to watch in using P3 color space for watching films and things like that. So we want to be able to have that choice of work and play and seek and have better integration with color. So that's a huge one. Better portability, obviously. It's always good to be able to have these things as portable as possible, be able to like pop it in a little case, toss it in your backpack, and not have to worry that, you're possibly going to damage, a very expensive piece of gear, but also an essential piece of gear. And we already kind of do that with our laptops, so I don't think that that's a far cry. I think we'll wind up seeing better integration with that kind of thing. But I would want to see something that is like my Quest. So I've got my Quest 3 here, right? And I've actually, and I'll go over this in another video, but I do have the other attachment devices, but I've kind of gone back to this. I'll go back to that. But portability, I would love for these things to fold in, possibly like a pair of sunglasses, and then be able to put them in a smaller case. The community, I'd love to see a better integration with the community, and what I mean by that is there are some really, really interesting communities popping up, and I'm planning on starting some and being engaged in those in very focused areas. I love what the Big Screen app is doing, and some of the communities that are popping up around watching things together, and hopefully those things will wind up echoing into other forms of media and engagement, and I think it will. But I want to see that really become a focus because it's kind of essential. And I don't mean just, realistic avatars, which is great too. It's great for work to be able to do that. But I want to be able to, kind of envision what Ready Player One kind of has. We have, obviously that's a huge focus on gaming, but there was a lot of big spaces where people can get together, and I think the long tail and the niche communities will really stand out, and hopefully that'll become a mature area for people to meet each other, and obviously just to even hang out with just your friends and go to different spaces and consume content and participate in things. Spatial sound is a huge one. So I think that we have decent sound in the way that it is, but I think if you want to increase that level of immersion, you need good spatial sound. Meaning that if you're in a space, I want to feel like I'm in that space, and I want to hear echoes, and I want to hear accurate reflections, and so I think that would go. That would really just add to that next level. Obviously, the cost effectiveness. I'd love to see more accessories. So, so that. So let's go over that. I have a few notes about the Vision Pro and the Quest 3 and the XReal Air. So the Vision Pro obviously is tackling this kind of first step with bringing spatial computing. This idea of spatial computing is that we're transferring our 2D world to the 3D space, which is going to be a slow process because developers have to kind of figure out what the design language of that is going to look like and what people are going to be tackling and getting into. But obviously we're heading in that direction, and it's a new market, and and anytime there's a new market and we wind up seeing some adoption, which we are seeing, then it will help more people want to get into the space, and will build a thriving community in it. Also with 4K per eye being the new standard, the fidelity's great. The next thing I would love to see is, because I believe we're looking at 90 or 100 hertz for the refresh, and I think 120 is we need to be there for that. For the other types of integration that we would want to have, especially with gaming, because right now there is a 120 hertz that we can use in apps like Virtual Desktop for the Quest 3, and because it's an LCD screen, I think that we're able to kind of get there faster with it as opposed to using micro OLED. But I think the next generation of the Vision Pro will probably have 120, maybe 120 plus hertz for that really accurate motion. So I think the goggles design is fine, but having used, VR, I really kind of love a more Halo design for most things, except for really, if I'm working out in this thing, obviously the goggles aspect of, securing this thing to your face is great. If I want to work in this for long periods of time, having something pressed against my face and not having my eyes be able to breathe for long periods of time is not good. So I think that we are probably looking at something like what Sony is doing really great with the PSVR 2 with this kind of like Halo strap. I think that design is great, but we'll probably be able to see multiple attachment ideas to use the same device with, and I think that's probably where we're going. And hopefully there'll be quick attachments, and we'll be able to swap between whatever action that we're doing. And then the last thing is battery. So better battery is a necessity, or the idea that we can have a few different batteries that we can swap. So maybe if a battery can only take us for a couple of hours, like 2 to 3 hours per battery, we should be able to hot swap them and have a couple batteries on us. And that kind of does suck for portability because we will be carrying around a few batteries, which are pretty heavy in a backpack. I think the answer is really that if we can plug in just like we would with a laptop, we'll be happy with that. So if we want to be able to move around in a space or stand up or whatever, then we should be able to quick pop a battery on there, move around, and then when we're sitting in a space, be able to plug in and it not getting in the way of moving around. Because as it is right now, I can sit down and work with my Quest, but if I do have it plugged in, sometimes the cable will get in the way because it's coming out the side of my head. But I want to keep it plugged in because I want to be able to use it for longer periods without worrying about the battery. So I think the design language with that would be interesting, to have maybe something that kind of comes out the back, or at least over the top of the head or something like that. So where it doesn't feel like it's kind of getting in the way, but that would be something that I'd love to see. So anyways, those are a few thoughts on the Vision Pro. And so moving on to the Quest 3, I have used this thing since it first came out, with the full intention of probably returning it because I had the Quest 2. To be honest, I didn't know if this was something that I would keep. I didn't know if it was as dramatic of an upgrade as I wanted, and I actually was very pleasantly surprised. And I think the reason why is because of the pancake optics. So the big difference that I saw between my Quest 2 and now the Quest 3 is these pancake optics that the Quest 3 has versus the old Fresnel lenses. And I didn't really understand why I ever had to wear glasses, because I obviously wear glasses. So I didn't understand why I would have to wear glasses when I'm using my Quest. And if you really think about what the Fresnel lenses or what these new pancake optics do, is you have something that is right in front of your face, and what you're doing is you need to give the illusion of depth. And so what we're doing is we're kind of creating these layers of telescoping that give you that sense of depth. And Fresnel lenses did that, and you by a byproduct of these many layers of telescoping light to your eyeballs, created these halo effects, and they created these banding things, and it also gave you a very, very small area of focus. And you get used to it by every time you put the Quest on, you have to put it on in exactly the right space and then lock it in, and that can get annoying. And it also doesn't give you as much area of space and field of view that you can look around in, which does take you a little bit out of immersion. And the Quest 3 solved it with these pancake lenses, so pretty much edge to edge, for the most part, is clear. There are some kind of ghosting light effects. Actually, I get ghosting kind of light effects with my regular glasses. So if I have lights that are on me, like right now, there's a little bit of ghosting that happens with glasses. But so I'm kind of used to that. It's not that bad. But huge update by removing that Fresnel aspect, and the pancake is basically how you would look. So I could look at most of the corners, and you don't really realize how much you actually do, or maybe me, you don't realize how much you actually look around without moving your head, and that was huge for working. So I could have, I'm using apps like Immersed to work in, and which I do highly recommend. It's a great app for work, and so I have, popped in multiple screens. I can move them around and things like that, and I'm able to stay in what it is I'm doing. So huge update for the Quest 3. So I wound up keeping it. For what you get, which is basically around 4K resolution, but it's kind of like 2.5K per eye, which gives you this total of 4K. It's sharp enough for me to be able to work and play in. I love watching movies in it. You get really good sharpness, really good clarity, and so I wound up keeping it. And at the price point, I think you really get a lot. You get a lot for what you have. You have a community, you have massive amount of apps and integration, and it is still just growing. And I feel like they're just kind of getting started. So in this space, they're not the first to the market, but they are, Meta is doing, I think, a good job with how they're releasing all of the different things that you can do, from the people who want to be super immersed in VR in spaces and play games like Assassin's Creed Nexus or Asgard's Wrath 2 are amazing, and even like Half-Life Alyx, which obviously is the gold standard in that, all the way down to like sitting down and watching a movie with friends. And so the Quest already has this kind of stuff built in. There's no betting on the future like Vision Pro, because we never know. I mean, there's a good bet that it will take off because it's Apple, but we never know. And that's a big cost of entry to something that is not as integrated with the Vision Pro. And the Quest 3, you're looking at $500-$600 and you're in, and that's a good deal to, especially with people that have never used VR. So I love the focus on the community. They do a good job. It's not perfect. There's still bugs. Like, for instance, one of the bugs that kind of annoys me is if you're in a group chat with friends, sometimes one of us will need to take a break or something. If we're in the middle of something, we'll go into the real world, take our glasses off, we put them back on, and then we can't hear them. And that's a bug that I've noticed for a long time that the Quest has had. And we don't know how to solve it except to restart the Quest, and that sucks. So there's definitely a few things that need to be worked on, but it's still great. We still use it all the time. And I know Quest 3 just did a microphone update, it seems, in one of the V59 or V60, where we actually get, it sounds like we get a little bit better microphone sound quality out of it. So that's nice to hear. I haven't really fully tested it yet, but it's cool to know that that's a thing that they've worked on. There's also a huge accessory community, third-party accessory community for Quest, and I think that you're getting into stuff that's that you can buy lots of different things for, and still be not pay exorbitant fees for something that feels so premium. Because I don't think that's the point. I think the point is, are you going to use it? And if you're going to use it and it's going to help and it's going to work, then you can always upgrade. We do need better battery management with the Quest 3, and I've now figured out a way that works for me, and I'll go over that in another video. But between battery and power management on this thing, it's very tricky to do. So I'll go into detail with that in another video. But just know that better battery management would be appreciated. I've mentioned this before, so let me go back to what this integration with VR is like. If I have lots of different devices using HDMI, how do I get these things into the Quest 3? And I would love to see some type of device that embraces wireless and also allows us to use, a universal standard of HDMI. And maybe that's wireless HDMI. Maybe that's a puck or something that is made by Meta or even Apple or whoever it is, or third party, and maybe we can plug that into one side of our Switch, of our TVs, our PS5s or Xbox or whatever, and then have it connect wirelessly to your Quest over some type of a Wi-Fi standard, like a dedicated Wi-Fi, signal. And I think that's doable. We have wireless HDMI. It exists. If we can get even something at 90 hertz on that, I think it would kill. I think it would be such a cool device that people would want to take with you, and then you can immediately just plug it in and sync it up to that Wi-Fi standard, and then you don't have to worry about the cables, and you can still use whatever HDMI signal you have, and maybe you get multiple of them. I think that would be a cool thing. So if you wind up doing that, you're welcome. With the Quest 3, they have these ways of adding on your accessories as it is, and there's a cool, I would probably hope for maybe a better way to do it, and I see Apple has these tabs that you can pop out to put in the new headbands or whatever, and these pop in by snapping these off and then snapping them back in, and that's okay. like it works. I would love to see a better way of integrating that, and maybe that little pull tab is kind of a cool way to do it. That locks it in, so that it locks it around your face. But even, you know, me fidgeting here, doing this on this video, I'm over here trying to like pop it in without breaking it. It's always the thing. You always feel like you were going to break your device by doing this. So there we go. But something that is a lot quicker to swap between. So it just removes that that barrier. So it's not frustrating, but I think the most frustrating part with swapping these are actually the top headbands, and being able to, you know, loop it through. I would love to just be able to snap, move on to the next thing, pull off the gasket, pop in a new one, whatever it is. I'd love to see that in the next version. I would love to see a better handoff to using your hands versus using the controller or the controllers. And what that might look like is maybe, I really love the design language in Immersed. You are working and you're working on a keyboard and mouse that's connected to your computer. I would love to see that actually connected to the Quest so that you could work remotely, but we'll see. But you have to be sitting at your computer, and then you pop your hand open like this, and then you hit a button, and then it swaps over. I'd love to see something like that with the Quest when it comes to working with controllers and your hand integration. So that would be, because otherwise you have to kind of open up a menu, or you have to, you know, pop them together to switch them, and it doesn't quite work as well all the time. So I'd love to see that be a really quick hot swap of going, look at your hand no matter what, pop, and then be able to focus on that next thing. And if you're using, like if you're connecting a PS5, like a DualShock controller or a DualSense controller, then, you know, there's a quick way to swap between, and using the two buttons, the option, what is it called? The share button and your option button at the same time. And you can kind of like, you know, toggle the motions and the variations of that. But I'd love to see a better integration with that. And obviously I talked about this one. It's color management. So let's see some ways that we can get into different color profiles and things like that. And then the last thing is like higher fidelity. So, okay. I have rambled on, but I only have one more left, and then just some notes about the future. So, the XReal Air. I really do like these, and they are perfect for mobility because I can toss them in a backpack, toss them in my little pill case, and connect it to my whatever device I want. It's a USB-C that can go USB-C to HDMI. They have the Beam. So the Beam is this device, and this allows you to connect your XReal Airs to this, and this is kind of like a little Android box, and it gives you a little bit more spatial control. You can move the screen bigger or smaller in it. You can put files on here like movies, or maybe, you know, and view them. And there's a couple of integrated apps like YouTube and Netflix are on here, and it's great. It's got a 3-hour battery life, and then you can also do pass-through. So if you plug your glasses into one end and then you plug the other end, and it can go into your HDMI devices. So that's cool. You're still kind of like in cable hell, but it's still a cool way to do that efficiently. I would love to see the XReal Air have a wider field of view. So as of right now, because of the way that they work, and I have my glasses into them, I'll talk about that in a second. But so I have a glasses insert. I have thick bottle glasses, but it works by projecting these onto a screen here, and that screen is only so big, and so there's only so much space that you can work with. I would love to see that, even if it created more of like a bug-eyed glasses. I'd love to see that kind of give me a little bit more peripheral space in next versions. And then that would be perfect. So you don't. It doesn't have to be as, as big as the Vision Pro or the Quest or any other glasses. But I think it could benefit from a little bit wider of a field of view, and that would be perfect. It would be nice talking about the glasses inserted into this. They're fine. My eyelashes wind up kind of brushing these, which wind up then kind of smudging because they're so close to your eyes. I would love to see actually these built in or a version of it that allows you to just kind of dial in diopters so that you don't have to have yet another piece of glass on top of a piece of glass that work in it. It works. Prescription glasses are 100% needed in the Quest 3, and I have those where I can just pop in these, and then it's not as obtrusive. But these are a little bit trickier because look, when I fold these things up, it's hard to fold up. And granted, I didn't get the official, kind of professional ones. I made these myself, so they may not be perfect, but it still kind of gets in the way when I fold it up, and that is you possibly can scratch the actual lenses that are on there. So I'd love to see a better design way for us that are visually impaired, and I would love to see more with the beam, which I'm sure they're planning on it. I have a lot of ideas, but that can be set for another video. Same thing with wireless HDMI. That would be awesome to be able to just maybe plug this beam into your glasses and have that and stick that in your pocket, and then it has a wire, and then have it wirelessly connect to whatever device that you have it connected to. Okay, so that's we're over 30 minutes into this video, and the last thing I just wanted to mention was what I think the future kind of holds, or what I would love to see. This year we're going to see a lot of competition in this HMD space, the head-mounted display spaces. I'm following a lot of news, especially with like Sad Leads Bradley, about what Valve might possibly have. I'm a huge fan of the Steam Deck. I'm a huge fan of the Steam controller. I have one in the back when I bought it in the case. So I love what Valve does. I would love to see what their answer is, and I hope it's not just for gaming, because what the Steam Deck has wound up showing us is that we have a portable computer that is a focus on gaming, but we can use it for other things, and and there's possible some videos that I'd love to do about the computing side of the Steam Deck, but that'll be another thing. So it would be cool to see them embrace the computing side if they wind up going into whatever their next version of the Index is going to be, and hopefully they can tackle some of these other questions like high resolution, fidelity, portability, integration, and obviously their Steam being the number one digital publishing or distribution side of things for games, but maybe it could be more for apps. And I think a virtual reality or an augmented or mixed reality or whatever we're going to call it, spatial, it could answer that, and it would be exciting to see what they offer. But it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun to see all the new toys. I will not be buying a Vision Pro just yet. I would love to wait a year, and plus I've got to be able to afford this thing. I can't plunk down $3,700, $4,000, including glasses inserts for these things. It's just too much for something that is unproven. But if it works, then we're all going to win because we'll all be able to get into this. But getting back to the future, I think I hope what we will wind up seeing is that we have a technology that would allow us to utilize possibly maybe the blockchain to allow us to own our media and our goods and create things in those spaces. So we have we have streaming, and I don't think streaming is the answer. I think what we have is we have a community of people that love to collect, including myself. We want to be able to kind of own the media that we have, and be able to display it, to be able to share it possibly. And I don't mean by pirating, but I mean by being able to, if I want to let a friend borrow a movie or something, and then we can talk about it, and then maybe they'll get them into that space as well. Streaming is kind of starting to remove the community aspect of media, at least from my perspective, because we would all have to be part of the same streaming service. We all have to subscribe to all these, and they're starting to get so fragmented that we're having to wind up spending how much money on all these different streaming services and gets balkanized. It's not really the answer, I don't think. So I think the future is that we find a way that we can securely own our own media and our own digital goods, and that we can also sell those things on a platform that maybe is like kind of, an Amazon of this digital space. And it's not just for VR, but it would allow us to be utilized in other aspects as well. So we also are going to see some more mainstream streamed events. And I'm seeing a lot of this in the community where people are starting to host their niche things. And I think that's going to be really, really big. And people are going to start to figure that out, especially when we see more mass adoption. And what I mean by that is that, we have communities that are using apps to play movies or TV or whatever it is, play their own content, and build communities around that, so that people, that are into the same thing will show up, and everybody gets to kind of share in the space, and it's a global thing, which is great. So I think we'll start to see more of these in a much, much bigger scale. I would love to see us to be able to have apps that allow us to design our own spaces and use those as our home base. And then we could start a whole economy about like filling those spaces with the things that we want, with our books, our music, our media, our movies, what have you, games, and invite your friends over to be able to play in those games. And, it's like coming over to their house. And the technology behind that, the only thing that I've seen that is kind of remotely hitting that is blockchain. Obviously, it's a whole different thing with crypto, and that's a whole other video. But I really do think that that's the answer. I think that's the future that we're heading towards, and I don't see it as a bad thing. I think it's a really, really good thing, and I think it's a really, really good thing for creators to make things in the digital space and be able to have an economy around it. We're also going to see, deep immersion accessories. I think we're going to see some really cool things come down the line that have to deal with, haptic pads or treadmills, and not like big gaudy treadmills, but I think they're going to be very thin. They may be pads that you could roll out that have maybe like mini treadmill balls that allow you to kind of move around in a space that feels natural. So they'll be pretty portable, or haptic pads that kind of vibrate the feet under your feet, so that you have something to kind of stand on. You don't need to like actually physically. I don't think the answer is physically moving in your space, but moving, in place. And we're going to start seeing stuff like that. Haptics. The old smell-o-vision. I think we're going to probably see things that are going to come down the line that are going to be maybe stuff that you like, smart plugs that you plug into the wall that interact and give different scents to to games that you're playing. So we'll probably see things like that, and these are probably more niche things, but I think we'll see where the community goes. But we're talking about the future, so atmospherics, winds. I think that probably would be the biggest thing. Is some type of like wind device, which is a fan. It just can be a smart fan that can integrate and be timed with your game, your movie, or whatever it is. So I think that could be something that could be made. Vehicle simulations, which we already see, and we'll probably see more of, things like that are like timed pistons that can move in space. So we'll probably see more accessible things like that come down the line. And the last thing is, we're all talking about AI. I think AI will be an input device for for VR. Because we are isolating our vision, and we're adding layers in front of our vision, we're also needing to figure out really quick ways to get into things, and really quick ways to navigate and utilize and make or play or whatever it is. And I think AI is going to be part of that. So right now, Apple has eye tracking, and so if we take that a step further, then we'll start to develop data that'll be used on some type of a learning model, so that your VR device will be more accustomed to you, just like smartwatches are. I think we'll wind up seeing AI be those personalized, use cases and used as input devices, as another input device. So right now with eye tracking, you can look at certain things and then you can, move your fingers and do things like that. Well, I think, we're going to wind up getting learning models that will wind up expanding on that and kind of like not thinking for you, but it will really help you along the lines. And I think it'll make things like, figuring out what to type, what to say, whatever. There'll be baselines for those types of things that will get you there quicker. So we'll see. Anyways, that is all I have. This is a long video. I didn't script this, but I just wanted to kind of get a bunch of these ideas out at once, and I'll probably clip these out. But if you are into VR, if you're into mixed reality, filmmaking and things like that, there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to be focusing on this channel. We'll be talking about some of the content that we're seeing online, and some movies and TV and games, and just have fun with it. I'm also going to be going back and into the actual creation space, going into picking up and probably live streaming, and I've got to figure this out. But looking at apps like open source stuff like Blender, which I know there's a huge community already around it, so I feel like I'm catching up, which obviously is, but I think we're still early on, especially because of all this stuff, because of VR. We're going to see more people enter this space to be able to make 3D things, digital things, and environments and immersive content, and tell stories and these things. So I'm super excited to be making things. I'm super excited to be talking about these things, and hopefully you are too. So if you love this stuff, I'd encourage you to subscribe to the channel and like it. It would really help me out. And we'll see you on the next video.